Hey guys, I'm Randy Potato with 1500 hours in Darkest Dungeon 2, here with some quick tips for new players. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe. I post new content every day. Enjoy the demo now on Steam. First and foremost, stress management is the key to winning in Darkest Dungeon 2. Reaching 10 stress and having a meltdown has catastrophic effects, from bad quirks to HP loss and affinity loss. But having your stress above 4 at all is a quick way to lose affinity and get devastating negative relationships at inns. For easier stress management, I suggest always upgrading the Man-at-Arms bolster or other stress heal moves if you have them at the first inn. This will allow you to move stress from 5 down to 3, below the negative banter threshold. The second upgraded inn one should usually be the Highwayman's Take Aim. Take Aim upgraded gives you 2 guaranteed crit tokens, and for every enemy you crit, you will have a chance to reduce stress not only on yourself, but on your allies as well. Second tip is managing relationships, which ties in heavily to stress. Having low stress is the easiest way to get positive affinity. Every encounter location, where your heroes will have a chance to voice their opinion, will either gain or lose you affinity, so make sure to pay attention to the glow of the other heroes when you hover over a hero. It will either be gold and gain you 1 affinity with that hero if you select this option, or it will be blue and you will lose 2 affinity with that hero. Some options won't have a glow and therefore won't affect affinity. In almost all cases, I take the option that gives me the most possible affinity without going into the negative affinity threshold, which is 8, even if I want to pick another option. Always make sure to check your affinity before making a selection here by pressing R to open the relationship screen. Inn items are another easy way to gain affinity. A very important note is that at Inn 1 you have a minus 20% chance to get a relationship of any kind. This means it's impossible to get a relationship if you're in the neutral zone. Since everyone starts at 9 affinity, just above the negative zone, and too far away to realistically make it to 14 affinity for a positive relationship before you get your relationship rolls at the embark screen, the only thing you should be doing at Inn 1 is avoiding falling into the negative zone. This means do not use any RNG affinity item, like the playing cards, at the first inn. Save it for the next region. Getting a negative relationship this early is devastating for a run. Next tip is on combat items. I often see other players, and myself honestly, throwing out combat items because they seem to be useless. Even for the combat items that straight up have no use, there's still a benefit to equipping and using them over throwing them out. A combat item that targets an enemy is an easy way to remove dodge from an opponent, even if the actual effect of the item seems irrelevant. In addition, any item that you can use to buff another hero gives you a chance at earning affinity. So early game, equip and use items you deem weaker, while saving quality combat items, generally your heals and dot resisting powders, for tougher fights. Some quick combat tips. The top priority in any fight is to gain an action economy advantage if possible. This means avoid spreading damage, target each enemy with your whole squad if possible until they're dead. Obviously, newer players won't know which enemy is the most important to kill first, so I would generally just target the easiest to kill, the lowest HP enemy that doesn't have any block or dodge tokens, to gain that advantage early. Make sure you note whether or not an enemy has death blow resistance by hovering over them to determine whether, say, a potential dot effect will kill them. These effects happen at the start of their turn, or if you need to push them to 0 HP to get a chance for a kill. Once you have fought an enemy and seen their moves, you can hover them and hold Alt. This will bring up the Alt View mode, where you can get a closer look at the enemy and see which skills they have and what positions they can target. Stalling for heals is not as prominent in this game as it was in Darkest Dungeon 1, but I do always suggest using Bolster or another stress heal anytime you have heroes at 5 or higher stress, even if you need to stall. Stalling to heal HP is not as strong a tactic, as you're risking additional damage and stress from keeping the enemy alive, and you heal HP on the road anyways. Now a guide to mapping out a path to follow. At the start of the region, I will always map out a specific path to follow. Going blindly from location to location is not the way to play. The first priority is to map a path that will allow you to complete the region goal if the reward is something you want, and it usually is. The second priority is to map a path you can actually beat. For beginners, this means skipping roads marked in blue, as these contain road fights. Road fights rarely contain powerful rewards, and taking unnecessary stress and damage can cripple your run when you get to the difficult fights. The Oasis is the best node in the game for new players without unlocks, as this is the only way to get mineral spring water, an item that heals both health and stress, and stacks up to 3 on a single hero. To get the spring water, select the option that gives supplies at the Oasis encounter. Other strong nodes include the Hospital, which will allow you to remove negative quirks for 16 relics each, and buy an array of healing items. The Hoarder is your shop, but it's not a strong early game since you don't have many trinkets unlocked. Resistance encounters are your bread and butter. This is how you get most of your mastery, relics, and baubles, along with chances of other loot. Cultist encounters are more difficult fights, but I suggest taking them because early on, getting one of the cultist trinkets is a powerful boost to your team. Hero shrines are a mandatory visit for new players, as this is the only way to unlock new skills for your heroes. I suggest using the Highwayman first, as his first shrine unlocks a powerful attack that your damage-lacking team could really use. Assistance encounters will reward you with light among other potential loot. This is a relatively weaker location. Only go here if you need a light boost to finish the region, because hitting 0 light as a newer player means likely death. Academic studies are high risk, high reward, but this is the only way to get unique rare trinkets and items that could save a run. Academic caches are among the weakest nodes, just offering relics and items, which is not great with your limited pool of items unlocked on a new profile. Creature dens have very powerful rewards and guaranteed mastery, but you will face 2 waves of powerful foes. I suggest taking these later in the run and only if you're at full health. Watchtowers will allow you to scout the whole map, so it's usually worth visiting one early in a region to scout for the more powerful nodes. And finally, we have lairs. You will lose to most bosses going in blind, so I don't suggest trying lairs until later in the run to allow you to buff yourself. The easiest and most rewarding boss fight for new players is the Harvest Child, found in the Fetter. Do note that each boss has a special rare trinket along with the trophy needed to unlock the chapter boss, so the loot is obviously better than any other location, but death is of course very likely. And finally, the most important tip for new players is to subscribe to me, Randy Potato, for more guides and full runs I post every day. Thank you for watching and enjoy Darkest Dungeon 2.